HMP Nottingham, once seen as a symbol of modernisation following its 2010 rebuild, has again found itself in the crosshairs of serious concern. In February 2025, an independent review of progress was conducted following a damning inspection in May 2024. What inspectors discovered was deeply unsettling: a prison buckling under pressure, struggling to maintain safety, purpose and dignity amidst a churn of short-term inmates and inexperienced staff. Despite some efforts at reform, HMP Nottingham continues to face systemic failings that reveal a troubling picture of modern British incarceration. At the heart of the crisis is violence, rampant, persistent and lethal. Since the last full inspection, prisoner-on-prisoner assaults have increased, not decreased, and while many incidents weren't deemed serious, a man was murdered in custody shortly after the inspection. That one stark fact alone undermines any claims of substantial progress. A data-driven violence reduction strategy has been drafted, but real-world impact remains limited. Debt, mental health issues, gang conflicts, and drug misuse all contribute to the chaos. The prison's response, workbooks and budget courses, feels painfully inadequate for the scale of the problem. Self-harm continues to plague HMP Nottingham. Though a multidisciplinary action plan is now in place, the fact remains, self-harm levels are among the highest in the country. Vulnerable prisoners are still regularly held in segregation, despite being assessed as mentally unfit for such conditions. In some cases, men waited 20 weeks for mental health transfers, while new measures like grab bags of distraction materials and increased listener recruitment are steps forward. The underlying issues, boredom, lack of purposeful activity and insufficient staff training, are still very much alive. Speaking of training, it remains a gaping hole in Nottingham's operation. A quarter of officers have less than 2 years' experience, a slight improvement from the 40% reported last year, but still far from reassuring. The inexperience of staff was most glaring in the flawed delivery of key work sessions, which often confused first-night interviews with genuine rehabilitative engagement. Leadership has tried to address this with better oversight and guidance, but consistency is lacking. Mental health care is a mixed picture. While some transfers now happen within the legal 28-day window, others drag on dangerously, leaving already fragile individuals locked in cells ill-suited for their care. Communication between mental health professionals and custodial staff has improved, but only marginally. Alarmingly, cells previously unfit for detoxification due to bolted hatches remain underused, despite minor upgrades, and multi-occupancy continues to pose risks. The prison's regime is described as restricted, a term that doesn't do justice to the reality. 1/3 of prisoners are unemployed, spending just over 2 hours a day unlocked from their cells. Weekends remain particularly grim, with barely any meaningful activity. While full-time workers enjoy better conditions, the majority do not. Education, another supposed rehabilitative pillar, is also failing. Ofsted found insufficient progress in nearly every area it reviewed, citing poor allocation, unqualified teaching, and dismal attendance. Over 250 prisoners still lack a personal learning plan. Illiteracy is widespread, yet efforts to correct it remain disjointed and under-resourced. Even public protection, arguably the most fundamental duty of a prison, is falling apart. High-risk offenders are routinely released without proper oversight. Telephone monitoring is erratic and often non-existent due to chronic staff shortages. Alarmingly, 60% of monitored prisoners are having their calls go unreviewed, meaning potential threats go undetected. Meanwhile, child contact restrictions are inconsistently enforced, and interdepartmental meetings suffer from poor attendance. When it comes to resettlement, the system's chance to break the cycle of crime, the results are equally bleak. In the past 6 months, over 200 prisoners have been released into homelessness. Many of these are repeat offenders, cycling in and out on short recalls, often just 14 days long. Some innovative initiatives, like a partnership with Nottingham City Council targeting chronic rough sleepers, offer hope, But these are outliers, not the norm. What emerges from this inspection is a prison caught in permanent firefighting mode. Leadership may be trying, but intentions aren't enough. The day-to-day experience for most inmates is one of violence, boredom, understimulation, and neglect. Prisoners are either locked in cells or shuffled between chaotic, under-attended programs. Rehabilitation is more theory than practice, and safety is the exception, not the rule. HMP Nottingham has become a case study in systemic stagnation. Despite repeated inspections, action plans, and policy tweaks, the core problems remain stubbornly embedded. It's not that reform is impossible, it's that it is always too little, too late. So the question must be asked, why do we tolerate institutions that repeatedly fail their core mission? Can a reception prison with high churn ever truly offer stability and reform? Is the government prepared to invest in staffing, training and mental health at the scale required to fix places like HMP Nottingham? Or will we continue to shuffle the blame while men languish in cells, waiting for education, for therapy, for housing, and sometimes for justice that never comes? An inmate who slashed a prison officer's throat with razor blades has been given an 11-year jail sentence. Michael Dye needed 17 stitches in a 10-centimetre 4-inch wound to his neck after the attack at HMP Nottingham. Nottingham Crown Court heard he was lucky an artery was not hit. Michael McKenna admitted wounding with intent and attempting to cause grievous bodily harm to another prison officer at a court appearance. The 25-year-old also admitted racially aggravated threatening behaviour towards a detention officer following the slashing. The court heard Mr. Dye had recently started working at the Category B male prison, which has been previously described as dangerous and having very significant problems with violence. McKenna, who appeared at court via video link from HMP Wakefield, had only arrived at the prison the previous day. Alan Murphy, prosecuting, said when Mr. Dye was releasing prisoners for their hour of association time, McKenna approached the officer while holding 2 blades taken from prison-issue razors. Suddenly, for no reason at all, the defendant lunged towards Mr. Dye, he said. CCTV footage shows other prison officers arriving seconds later, with McKenna attempting to slash at Alexander Malcolm. After the attack, McKenna was arrested and taken to a custody suite where he racially abused a detention officer. Sentencing, Judge Gregory Dickinson QC said the premeditated attack was carried out without warning, without reason. You slashed his throat, causing a nasty gaping wound, he said. The court heard both prison officers have been affected by the attack, with a statement from Mr. Dye saying the scarring to his neck acts as a constant reminder, but both continue to work in the service. Andy Baxter, spokesman for the Prison Officers Association in the Midlands, said attacks like this have an impact on the resilience and mental well-being of all prison staff, adding, "Nottingham is still an incredibly difficult prison to work in." Mr. Dye is a really well-liked prison officer, not just by other officers but also prisoners, which shows he was doing a reasonable job, he said. It's a miracle that his injuries were not worse, 3 millimeters round the side, and it would have been his jugular. A 21-year-old man has been jailed for throwing drugs over the walls of Nottingham Prison from neighbouring gardens. Louis Denham, formerly of Woodfield Road, Strelly, pleaded guilty at Nottingham Crown Court to 2 counts of supplying psychoactive substances and was sentenced to 16 months in prison. The conviction was the first in Nottinghamshire to use new laws introduced in 2015 under the Serious Crime Act, making it an offence to throw packages into a prison. The legislation aims to criminalise throwing new psychoactive substances into prison grounds in an attempt to supply drugs. Mr. Denham carried out the throwovers from Eadingley Square, just a few yards away from the prison on Perry Road, Sherwood-on-Sea. Packages were found in the prison grounds in March 2016 and sent for forensic analysis, which found Denham's fingerprints on the containers. On August the 26th, 10 cigar-sized packets containing drugs were found close to the prison's perimeter fence. Mr. Denham was seen nearby and chased by a police officer, who arrested him. A search of his home uncovered 10 micro-sized mobile phones, which were small enough to fit inside the drug packages. The drugs came under the definition of psychoactive substances, more commonly known as legal highs, but many of which have since been made illegal by changes in government law. The drugs are a problem in prisons across the country, and last year more than half of prisoners at HMP Nottingham, near Retford in Nottinghamshire, said they found getting drugs easy. A report conducted by the National Offender Management Service revealed 15% of inmates had developed a drug problem since being at the prison. Detective Inspector Ed Cook led the operation leading to Denham's arrest. He said, "This is the result of an operation between Nottinghamshire Police and HMP Nottingham to target offenders supplying items into the prison. New psychoactive substances can be directly linked to an increase in violence because of the unpredictable effects on the user's health. This in turn increases demand on prison staff and the emergency services, including police and healthcare." He added, "We have a duty to ensure our communities are safe, including the prison community, and that means bringing people like Denham, who was using access to local residents' gardens to supply the prison, to justice." Further operations will be conducted to target such offences at all our prison establishments. Nottinghamshire prisons came under fire last year after drone activity was recorded at HMP Nottingham, near Retford, and HMP Watton, east of Bingham. Officers recorded several cases of drones carrying mobile phones and trying to smuggle drugs into the jails. Across the whole UK prison network, there were 33 drone incidents in 2015, compared with just 2 in 2014. Governor of HMP Nottingham Tom Wheatley said, "Psychoactive substances cause misery in prison, and those who supply them are breaking the law and obstructing us from delivering a safe, secure, and decent environment. We work with our law enforcement partners to ensure that this activity is likely to result in imprisonment for the perpetrators."